Over the next 2 weeks, I'd like to deal with principles for dealing with conflict. I've identified 6 principles that could really help us to do better in interpersonal relationships. This week, we'll cover the first 3. My previous business partner, my good friend John Radford, once developed a module called Valuing Conflict. This puzzled me as I saw that conflict had very little value in my life, and I tried to avoid it as much as possible. But he explained that conflict has value because it teaches us much about ourselves and also about those involved in the conflict. So we need to look outward and inward when it occurs. Now, if you think about it, conflict is caused by 3 main things: them, it, and me. Them refers to those people that do things that we don't agree with or don't like. For example, your unreasonable boss, that colleague who talks too loudly, or your friend who always knows more than you do. The it refers to those things that we can't control but we want to. For example, traffic jams, late trains, and technology that doesn't work when we need it to. And me refers to those things in our lives that cause us conflict within ourselves. For example, the way I don't stand up for myself when a disagreement occurs, or the fact that I look so fat in the mirror or too thin, or the way that I always put my foot into my mouth so often. So, how do we deal with these conflicts? There are many skills around, but I'd like to look at 6 as I mentioned. Number 1, let the ball go to the keeper. When a batsman is bowled a lousy ball, he'd be foolish to play it, so he lets it go through to the wicket-keeper. Now, in the same way, when people say things which are harmful or wounding, we must exercise our right to sidestep those words and deny them entry into our hearts. I once counseled a lady whose mother used to verbally abuse her quite a bit, and I asked her to visualize her mom's harsh words coming out of her mother's mouth and going right past her body as she spoke. It was as if the words were leaving her untouched as they shot by into the wicket-keeper's gloves. Take back the power to deny harmful words from wounding your spirit. If you don't, I can guarantee you that a conflict will result. Number 2, I messages, not you messages. When you are in a disagreement and need to speak the truth, be sure to use I messages and not the you message. If you need to confront someone and start by saying, you are the problem and you need to sort out your aggressive attitude, you will probably get an aggressive response as the person either justifies themselves or starts to blame you for your bad attitude. This will lead to a lose-lose or at best a lose-win situation. Instead, try this. Use an I message and say, I'm struggling with the way that you speak to me. Can you help me to understand what is causing it? You will probably open the way for a discussion that could lead to a win-win. Number 3, come in the opposite spirit. The Bible says that a gentle word turns away wrath. When someone has an aggressive or harsh attitude, the worst thing to do is to react in the same spirit. As we say, do not fight fire with fire. So try to identify the opposite spirit to the one coming at you. If you respond this way, you will take the wind out of their sails and the discussion should cool down. So the opposite of pride is humility. The opposite of anger is a quiet spirit. The opposite of an impatient attitude is a patient one, and so on. So let's recap. Number 1, let the ball go through to the keeper. Number 2, use I messages and not you messages. And number 3, come in the opposite spirit to the spirit that's coming at you. That concludes the first part of our principles for dealing with conflict, and next week we'll look at the final 3.